where diseases come from, and it runs in the family, right? Oh yeah, it runs in my family, runs in this family. Sure, it runs in your family, but guess what? If you eat the same diet that your parents ate, then yeah, you're gonna trigger the same disease that they did. But if you do something totally different, if you change your gene expression, guess what? You don't have to worry about that. You may have to worry about it a little bit, but you don't have to worry about it a lot, right? You don't have to, go crazy about it because you did something completely different than what they did.
Yeah.
Again, if
Yeah.
you do the same stuff that they did, then yeah, you got to worry about it. Yeah.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Eat Real to Heal podcast. Welcome back to this episode, and I am so excited to have you here. I am your host, Nicolette Richer, and on today's show, I am so excited to welcome Kelley Gilberry. Kelley Gilberry was in the U.S. Navy, and he then turned his entire life around after his mother was diagnosed with heart disease, and he started to dive in to what that meant. What is heart disease? How many Americans have that? Why was his mother diagnosed with it? And that's when he discovered lifestyle medicine, nutrition, and he then went on to become a holistic nutritionist, which is nothing short of remarkable, given that he had come from the Navy, where there's not often the most healthiest practices around food. And now he was into creating a movement within himself and his family and his community. And now he's here to share his insights into the mind-body connection that will leave you feeling so empowered. Now, what happened to Kelley is nothing short of remarkable from this standpoint that he also lost 70 pounds along the way. And his story is a true testament to the transformative power of a real, whole vegan lifestyle and all the other holistic practices that he's adopted along the way. Now, this is not just about adopting a vegan lifestyle or a plant-strong lifestyle or a whole foods lifestyle. There's so much more than just the physical gains that you get. It's also the emotional and the mental well-being that you're going to achieve as you adopt this lifestyle. So join the podcast today. I'm so excited to welcome Kelley to the show. You're gonna love it. So please, you know what to do when you listen to these episodes. And if you know that there's someone in your life that could benefit from hearing this information, not everybody listens to podcasts still, even though we have thousands of podcasts out there, but this could be the one podcast that you share with a loved one that can transform their life. So if you know someone out there who's suffering from diabetes, heart disease, an autoimmune disorder, infertility, any type of chronic illness where they're taking prescription meds, where their health continues to decline, please share this episode and any of our other episodes that we have been recording over the last few years, and share them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, before we dive in, just want to make a few announcements. Our nutrition and detox training program is back in action, better than ever before. And this year, we're exclusively working with yoga instructors. So we know that if you're a yoga instructor, 60% of the students that you teach are suffering from a chronic degenerative disease. And here's the other thing. COVID annihilated so many yoga studios out there. And now there's all of these yoga instructors that are either not working, they can't find work, they're trying to do it online digitally. But here's the thing. You are trusted in your community because you've studied health and anatomy and physiology and breath work and mindfulness. Now, we're helping yoga instructors revamp their offerings to their clients, to their students. We're teaching yoga instructors how to reverse chronic diseases so they can become like me, somebody who can work with a client who has a diagnosed condition and learn the art and science of reversing chronic diseases, so they don't need to be promoting fad cleanses and diets and all of these programs that just don't work. We're here to teach you, handhold you through a 6-month training program, which includes the science of chronic disease reversal as well as the art of creating from scratch and launching a successful 5, 6, or 7-figure business like we did. So if you know of a yoga instructor out there that wants to learn about this, we want to help yoga instructors reclaim their businesses in this new way where they're also teaching their existing clients how to reverse chronic disease. So sign up at the link below. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for being here. Let's dive into the episode with Kelley. Enjoy the show, and I will see you at the end. Bye for now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Eat Real to Heal podcast. On today's episode, I am so excited to have Kelley Gilberry from The One Determined Vegan on our show. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
No, it's a pleasure. You have an amazing story, which is, I can't wait for you to share it with the world. Let's start there because everybody wants to know, what's the story behind the person. We live in a culture where oral tradition and storytelling is so profound. It's huge. And it is the way that we transmit information. And I'm so appreciative when individuals like yourself go through a life transformation like you did, and then you put yourself out there and share it with the world. And you do it in a way that is, it's really looking at it from all levels. Like you're choosing to coach people. You have a book that's coming out that we're going to tap into. You have a beautiful website. But you also go on shows like mine. You take the time to share your story, and which is so powerful. That's more powerful than, anything else that anybody can do. So I just want to express my deep gratitude for you for doing that. So
thank you very much.
To jump in, why don't you take us back to the moment when you really started to discover that food was medicine and what launched you into this world?
I discovered food was medicine a few years ago when my mother passed away suddenly from a heart attack, right? She was here one day, gone the next day, literally in a matter of days. She had a heart attack, right? So she went in for a procedure to have stents into her heart for her heart condition or for heart disease. And she ended up passing away on the table. So when she passed away, I was in the absolute worst shape of my life. So I was obese, I was a pre-diabetic, and I also had heart disease. I also had angina, right? So I mean, I could barely tie my shoes at time. Walking upstairs was quite the challenge, right? But I couldn't tie my shoes because my belly would get in the way, right? And when she passed away, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. So I go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you have these three things: you're obese, you have prediabetes, and you have heart disease, right? So keep in mind, she just passed away. So I started doing research and to find out where does sickness and disease come from? Why do people get sick? Why do people die? Like, this is literally what I'm putting into a Google search. Why do people, because I wanted to know why my mother passed away. And the more and more I kept getting the answers, the more and more I kept getting pointed back to the food. It's the food, it's the food, it's the food. But what is it about the food, right? I discovered that it's the wrong fuel source. So the wrong fuel source in the sense that human beings are, the more and more research I did, find that human beings are designed to eat plants. My cholesterol was almost 300. Yeah. And my LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, was over 200. And I was pre-diabetic, right? And I was obese at the time. So I didn't really get into plant-based nutrition until my mother came to me in a dream and told me that I had the God-given ability to be able to help other people heal. Right? So I had no idea what that meant. Keep in mind, when it came to me in this dream, I'm obese, I am pre-diabetic, and I have heart disease. So I just decided to say, hey, I have no idea what this dream meant, but I kept seeing these crazy numbers. I kept seeing like a sequence of numbers, and I'm like, what does these numbers mean? So I looked up the numbers, and those numbers meant that basically you basically said that you're the one, like you're the one who has been chosen to deliver this message, right? But I still didn't understand that. I didn't understand it until a month later. Our uncle came to live with us, and he was diagnosed with cancer. So his cancer was no longer in remission. So it went from, he was diagnosed with liver cancer, I think initially, or bladder cancer, sorry. He was diagnosed with bladder cancer. Then they removed this bladder and things of that nature. And then, he was in remission for a few years. And then all of a sudden the cancer came back. And, when cancer comes back, it comes back with a vengeance. So it came back super aggressive, right? And then super aggressive, they gave him only 2 months to live. So MD Anderson is the major cancer hospital in the world. So MD Anderson is in Houston. I live in Houston, and the family decided to have him live with us. And when he came to live with us, so I saw him go from a strong. He lived with us for 5 months. So I ended up living for 5 months instead of the 2. The doctors were, because we started giving them plants. I didn't even really know the power of plants at that time. We just started giving them more plants, and it extended his life for another 3 months. So the doctors were just like scratching their heads, saying, what are you doing here? Like, what are you still doing here? It's like, you're supposed to be gone like 2 months ago. You know what I mean? And you're still here. So they were like really confused. So when he passed away, I instantly knew what that dream meant for my mother. It meant that I need to go first on a mission to be able to transform my own health. And when I transform my own health, and now after I transform that, I need to transform the health of others, help other people transform their health. So that is the mission that I've been on ever since. And that dream all of a sudden made sense. So that is when One Determined Vegan was born. I just went on a crazy mission to be the very best version of myself. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm like, for so many people who enter into this space, it's usually because they get sick themselves or a loved one gets sick. And then they will do a search. Often, they'll start to search like everybody else, like, how do I treat the disease? And, then it'll come up with a whole list of medications you can take. But if you actually do what you did, say, what is the cause of the disease, or how do I reverse the condition? Then all of a sudden it does. The answer is food, 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 food. So at the time when you were helping your uncle, were you still pre-diabetic, angina, like still, you hadn't made the health transformation yourself yet, right?
I hadn't made the health transformation yet because I still didn't understand it. Right, I'm researching it. I'm getting into it. I'm still trying to figure out why my mother passed away. Right, and I
Right.
know heart disease, like, yeah, it's the food, but what is it about the food? But I still didn't know exactly what it was about the food until
Yeah.
he passed away. When he passed away, and then boom, it's just like I just went, I went bonkers. Right,
Yeah.
it was a switch that flipped inside of my head, and I just went crazy.
Yeah. No, I
when
hear you.
it comes to
And I did the
when it
same
comes to
thing
plant
too. Yeah, I did the same thing too. I had a friend's dad who's 72, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, given 3 months to live. He lived another 22 years when he turned to metabolic nutrition and detoxification. So plant-based food as medicine. So to have a 72-year-old given 3 months to live, no conventional treatment, and then survive 22 more years. Like I too, the switch flipped and you do go bonkers. You're like, your whole world gets turned on its head because you're like, why were we not taught this? How come nobody's teaching this in schools? Like, it messes with you and it makes you feel like you are in another planet. Like, food is medicine. And it is. And so I know for some of our listeners, they're probably listening to this being like, not possible. Like, that must have been genetic. Your mom was sick. You were also sick. And I'm sure doctors probably told you it was genetic.
right? Yeah, the doctor told me it was a statin. Here's a statin. Have a good life, right?
Yeah.
Once I was diagnosed with all these, cholesterol almost 300, it was like, here's a statin. Have a good day,
Yeah.
right?
And
That's all
I
the doctor told me.
understand. Yeah, and I understand why the doctors do that, because they're not taught about nutrition, but also when you only have a 15-minute appointment or a 10-minute appointment with a doctor, like, the fastest thing to give somebody so that they don't have the symptoms, well, they're not expressing the symptoms, is to give them a drug. So had you already joined the US Navy by this point?
Yeah, I was out of the Navy by then. I'd
Okay,
been out of the Navy I got out of the Navy in 2009.
right. Okay. So you were also trained as a master training specialist. So you knew about fitness, correct?
I did not necessarily know about fitness. I know about how to deliver messages in the sense that I was training the students on, it's called naval science. So you take damage control, tying in the ships, maneuvering boards, things of that classroom type of stuff, and then real
I
world
see.
type of stuff too. But it had nothing to do with health and wellness, right?
Okay. So that's
So
what I just wanted to
not that type of.
clarify. Yeah. I just wanted to
Yeah, I
clarify
was in the
master
class.
training specialist. So,
Yeah, I
but
was in the
being in the
classroom.
Navy, you do need to be fit. No?
Right. So that's what I talk about in my book. I talk about in my book in the sense that in the Navy, we were required to stay in shape. We're required to uh, stay within military weight standards. But I say in my book that my health issues began literally the day I got out of the military, right? I got out of the military and I just started saying, there's no one there to hold your hand anymore. There's no one that says, hey, you have to have a certain amount of discipline. Hey, you have to do this and you have to do this, right? Now I have the choice. I have the choice to be able to eat unhealthy. Now I have a choice to be able to let my health spiral out of control. Now I have a choice to be obese if I wanted to, right? I don't necessarily want to be obese, but basically by the food choices and the lifestyle choices that I was making, then yeah, it caused me my weight to spiral out of control and my health to spiral out of control after I got out of the military in 2009.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I bring this up is because we've had Ronnie Penn on our show. You know, he's like a plant-based weightlifter who was also in the US Navy. And there's this myth that when you're in the Army, the military, the Navy, that you are super healthy, but you can be fit, but still have pre-diabetes, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, everything. And we know that from the Army, the military, the Navy, is that a lot of these guys are not, and girls, you know, Army people, all genders, they're not healthy. And what, you know, I have a different definition of health, and you probably have that same definition that I do. It's where your arteries are cleared, your organs are functioning well, your body's detoxifying daily. So can we talk a little bit about what it was like being in the Army, in the Navy for you, and what health looked like there?
Health to look like
Just give, because people
yeah.
see big muscles and they assume that's health, and we know that's not true. So let's like get to the
Well,
heart of this.
well, you're probably seeing the stuff on television, right? I talk about the real Navy. The real Navy, sailors. Sailors are the most undisciplined uh, people when it comes to food, right? When it comes to food and things, you've seen like they've cut down on it now, but some of the sailors, you see the sailors back in the day on the movies where they're like so gigantic and stuff, and they're just like bursting out of their seams. And we have this thing called you have to be within weight standards, right? So if you're not within weight standards, they give you a certain amount now. They give you a certain amount of time to be able to get yourself back in the standards. But back in the day, like in the 80s and 90s, I joined in the 90s. In the 90s, they didn't have those rules and stipulations to say, you have to be a certain weight or you have to be this, you have to be. You look at some of the sailors and you're just like, wow. Because sailors in the Navy, what we do is we get 3 square meals a day, right? We're on a ship in the middle of the ocean getting 3 square meals a day. And you can choose to go to the gym or you can choose to not to go to the gym, right? As long as you're able to do your job. Back in the day, no one really cares. But now, in the newer Navy, now they're cracking down on that in the sense that you have to be within the weight standards. You have to, if not, then they give you a certain amount of time, and then if not, then you get transferred out, right? You get removed,
And
basically.
are they trying to get to those weight standards more through exercise, or is there the combination of exercise and nutrition?
There is no rhyme, no reason
It's just
when it
whatever
comes to
way
that.
you can. So if you want to do keto and eat like, you know, 3 steaks a day and all the fat and no carbs, you can do that. So it doesn't, so which we know that keto causes lots of arterial blockage. And so you can essentially be unhealthy, but under like within the weight category.
As long as you're within the weight standards, it doesn't matter. All
Yeah,
right,
this
you
is
can get
this
there
is
however
something
you
that,
get there.
yeah, that needs to change. It needs to change for sure. And luckily we have people that are helping to do that, like Ronnie Penn, for example. And, you know, I can't wait to hear about you as well. I know you've been out of the Navy for a while. So I want to dive into your mom. So thank you for sharing the story about your mom and your uncle. What happens next for you after this when you see that his life is extended by a few months? What do you do next?
When I was loving it, right? I was loving it because he was up and around, he's moving, he's talking, he's doing, and like I said, the doctors are baffled, right? When we're taking him back, and it's like, what did you do? You're supposed to be going like 2 months ago, right? But again, it really didn't hit until after he passed away. I started doing more and more research, but when he passed away, it literally like I turned into literally a mad scientist. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to know, like I had literally an up close and personal conversation with death, like, hey, Def, you pull up a chair, I'll pull up a chair, and we'll talk, we'll duke it out, and we'll find out, we'll get down to the root cause of what it is, right? So the root cause was it's the food, it's the food, it's the food, right? So, but then I said, well, what is it about the food that I know it's the food, but what is specifically about the food? Okay, yeah, I get it now. So I went back to school and became certified in nutrition. But even before that, I didn't go back to school until the summertime. But in January, 1st of January, I had been plant-based for 6 months. So I started watching these documentaries, you know, uh, the main documentaries, What the Health
Yes.
and
Forks over knives,
Books Over Knives, and all
game
the different documentaries,
changers. Yeah.
game change, yeah, all of that different stuff, right? I started watching. I just started going bonkers, right? Anything related to nutrition, I wanted to know about it. If there was a book on nutrition, I wanted to read it. If there was a documentary on nutrition, I wanted to watch it. If there was a movie on nutrition, if there was a lecture that's being given, I wanted to be like front row seat, like I'm here, like tell me everything. Like I just had I still have it, but I had like such a thirst for knowledge. It's just like I can't get enough knowledge. Like give me more, give me more, give me more. And then I just turned myself into a mad scientist looking for these answers. So that is what I discovered. And I discovered that human beings are designed to eat plants. Like we don't want to admit it, but everything about our anatomy says that you're a plant eater. Everything from your teeth, your flat teeth, everything from your fingers. You got fingers.
Yeah.
Everything from your long digestive system to be able to digest plant matter, and everything from your feet, like you walk upright. Everything about you says that you are a plant eater. Literally, the saliva in your mouth, everything says that you're. This is the research, and I'm doing the research, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty interesting. So it was at that point when I started to get really, really angry. Right, I got angry, and then rage came about. Rage came about. Then that's when One Determined Vegan was born. So now I picture my mom being in a coffin, and she's here because of a cheeseburger, or she's here because of neck bones and pig feet and all kinds of stuff like that. So it really messed with my head. So I was in a bad space for a while. So I was when I work out thinking about, like, my mother passed away from the standard American diet, and it just literally it fueled me even more. It just turned me into a machine. Right?
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
that it happens because once that spark goes off, like you cannot go back. Like everything that we were raised to believe that, we need all this processed food, or that it's okay to eat processed food even, or and all this dairy and all this meat, and the fact that like there's no fiber in eggs and dairy and in meat and fish and chicken. There's no fiber, but none of us are taught this in schools. So how are we supposed to know it? But the minute that spark goes off, it is like a tornado has blown through. But not everybody I don't know, the spark doesn't get ignited for everybody the way it did for you and the way it did for me. But I love hearing that this happened to you, because it feels like you're just reflecting back my own story, which is exactly what happened to me. So,
Absolutely.
so let's talk about this for a minute though, because you were overweight by about 60 pounds roughly.
Yeah, the scale said, it said 50 pounds, 45 to 50 pounds. I was overweight, but after I lost the 45 to 50 pounds, I looked into the mirror and was like, no, I can afford to lose another 20, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up losing about 65 to 70 pounds.
Right. And you went back to your high school weight, which is
Right.
pretty impressive, which is not easy to do. So when did this all happen? None of this happens overnight, but when that spark went off for you, and then you just started doing all of this research and started making the changes, like, did a lot of people think that, once somebody's plant-based whole food, they assume that you've been that way for your whole life, but this wasn't the case. So did it happen slowly, or was it over a couple months? Or did this take years for you?
To lose the weight?
Well, to do all the research, to
No,
make the changes. Like, I'm just so
no.
curious about your process. I know some of the type A personality clients that I have, they're just like, they get to it, but it's important for people to know, who are listening, that it doesn't always happen overnight for everybody as well. So I'm just curious about your journey.
It doesn't. Here's my philosophy: reasons come first, answers come second.
Mm,
Right? So if you have enough reasons as to why you want to do something, the answers will come. Like when I went plant-based, I decided in December. Here's my scenario. I decided after my uncle passed away. He passed away in November. And
mhm.
then after he passed away, I just started doing crazy amounts of research for like the rest of November and probably the first week of December. And then after I got it like it's probably like around December 7th. Like I got it. I understand why my mother passed away. I understand where all these diseases came from. So I just decided, you know what I'm going to do on the 1st of January. I could have probably did it right then and there, but I just said, here's what I'm going to do to be able to get this out of my system. I'm going to just whatever in December, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. So if I wanted to eat, steak or whatever, I just ate whatever I want until the 1st of January. And on the 1st of January, that is when I decided I'm never going back again. This is what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to do it. So I spent the rest of that. The reason I did that is because a buddy of mine sent, those Omaha steaks and all that stuff. He sent all that stuff, like a big old box of it, right? He sent that stuff, and I was just like, you know what? Instead of just like throwing all this stuff away, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat all this stuff for the rest of December, 1st of January. That's it. I'm done. And that was in 2021, and I haven't gone back. January, that was almost 2.5 years ago, and I haven't gone back since. So that was, if you have enough reasons, so reasons come first and then answers come second. If you have enough reasons as to why you want to do something, the how will come later. So I had no idea how to lose the weight because I've been struggling with my weight my entire life. I did yo-yo dieting my entire life. My weight went up, my weight went down, right? I lose some weight, gain some weight, lose some weight, gain some weight, right? I had no idea how to lose the weight, but I knew that I had enough reasons as to why I wanted to do this. And then those reasons came first, and then all of the answers, which they came second. So the answers came with all the weight loss. And, I just wanted to know, I wanted to do it. I'll figure out the rest along the way. So that was my thought process behind it.
Yeah. So that's a lot of trust. And this is one of the things that I see for a lot of individuals and our audience that are listening to this. Like, you did what most people don't do. Most people set a goal, and then January 1st, they say, I'll start January 1st. And then by like February 1st or March 1st, it's over. It's like they're back to their old habits. So, and I do get it. Like, you had a really compelling reason. So it's interesting. I'm always curious about the different personality types that are able to do things in certain ways. And so, yeah, you definitely you knew your why, and you also had a lot of trust. And that's a big piece that I just want to make sure that the audience doesn't miss here. Our listeners don't miss is you just trusted that the answers would come and the how would come and that you'd figure it out. You trusted that this would work for you, and you just went and did it. And it's potentially one thing that I feel a lot of people don't have is that trust in themselves, and also the trust in, I don't know, a greater power, trust in, that you will figure it out and be able to do this and that it'll work. And it's important that no matter
Right.
what you're doing, like, you might know your why. A lot of people have the same why as you. They lost a family member, but it's still not enough for them to implement the changes and stick with it. So I'm really curious, beyond the why, which you have, that your uncle and your mom, beyond the trust, which you have as well, because you also had a dream. So there's a connection to a greater power, a greater source. You have that. So there's the trust. What do you think also contributed to your success as well? Because you're definitely not the norm. Like, the statistics show, like, what, 90 something % of people don't ever stick to their New Year's resolution. So what was it that was different for you?
Because I'm an ant, right? I live the philosophy of an ant, right? I've
So
always been
tell
that
me
way.
more about
And
that.
I'll tell you, you want to know about the ant philosophy?
Yes, I do. I'm like, what?
Right,
This is the
right.
first time I've
So,
heard this.
right. So there's a proverb in the Bible. I'm not sure if but there's a proverb in the Bible that says, Proverbs 6, verse 6 says, "Hey, old sluggard, go and learn from the ant. Go study the ant, the ways of the ant, and be wise." Study the ways, sluggard, meaning, hey, lazy person, go study the ways of an ant and be wise. So what does that mean? Ants are the most ruthless. There's two reasons that you want to be like an ant. Ants are very wise. You're like, why would I want to be like an ant? Ants are like super simple. No, they're not. They are simple, trust me, but they are in the sense that their mindset is so focused on whatever it is that they have to do. In the sense that if an ant, they want to do two things. Either they want to accomplish their goal, accomplish their dream, or they'll die. That's it. Those are the only two options for an ant. Accomplish their goal, accomplish their dream, or die, right? In the sense that an ant always knows where it wants to go in life. And you can use this in life. An ant always knows where it wants to go, and it will never stop until it reaches its destination, right? So if you put a pebble in front of an ant, guess what an ant's going to do? It's going to go around. It's going to go to the left. If it can't go to the left, it's going to go to the right. If it can't go to the right, it's going to go over the top. If it can't go over the top, guess what it's going to try to do? It's going to try to move the pebble out of the way. If it can't move the pebble out of the way, guess what it's going to try to do? It's going to try to, hey, other ants, let's go. Help me.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to have some other ants. It's going to have some other ants try to help them to try to move this pebble out of the way. Right? But even if they can't move the pebble out of the way, guess what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to dig a hole underneath. They're going to try to go underneath. They can't go underneath, then guess what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to literally gnaw their way through this pebble to be able to get to wherever it is that they have to go. They're that determined. They're that focused. There's nothing that's going to get into their way, right? So either they're going to accomplish their goal, accomplish their dream and their destination, or they're going to die. Those are the only two options that an ant does, right? And it has no ruler. It had meaning that the verse says it has no ruler and it has no governor, meaning that they are there they don't have 8 o'clock meetings in the morning and say, hey, 8 o'clock meeting, you need to do this. And what's your agenda for the day? Like, no, they already know what to do. They already know what to do. If you and they're so determined. If you go out right now and there's a big ant pile in your backyard and you knock it down, right? Guess what's going to happen when you come out in the morning?
Yeah, it's going to be built somewhere else, or it'll be built right back up. Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be rebuilt right back up.
Yeah.
Right. Because they never quit ever.
Yeah.
Right. And then that is how I've always been in my life. When I got out of the military and I started, letting my health spiral out of control, I guess you can say I quit then. But when it comes to me, I don't quit. Right? I'm just going to keep on coming. So that's why you see my name here. It's called One Determined Vegan. I have that. I created a name for a reason. It's because I have the determination of an ant. Right. And also ants are also important in the sense that they also prepare for the wintertime, right? They're always thinking about the future. They're always thinking about the future. In the summertime, they'll gather everything that they need for the wintertime because they know that the winter's going to be tough. It's going to be cold. It's going to be, food is going to be scarce. So therefore, ants will prepare for the future, right? So that is what I did when it comes to my health. If I do not get a hold of my health right now, if I do not reel my health in right now, then I'm not going to have a future. Right. So I just decided I'm going to live my life like an ant in the sense that I am going to prepare for the future. Now, the grasshopper, on the other hand, grasshopper does not live that way. Grasshopper, he laughs at the ant in the summertime. He says, what are you doing, working in the summertime? You're supposed to be hopping around in the high grass, just enjoying life, living life freely, no rules, just, living life in the moment. Right. That's what grasshoppers do. So when I started gaining all the weight and when I had prediabetes and heart disease, I was living my life like a grasshopper. I had no intentions of ever reeling in my health until something breaks. And when something breaks, guess what happens? Then you got to call in the doctor to be able to try to bail you out, right? So I don't believe in that anymore. I believe that an ant will find a way to become his own doctor. So that's how I become my own doctor. When I went to the doctor and the doctor said, hey, here's a statin. That's all you get. Here's a statin. Have a nice day, right? That's what the doctor told me. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I had never taken medication in my life. I'm a guy over 40, never taken medication in my life. I decided, you know what? I want to change my philosophy. It's not the food. The food is out there. The food, all the bad stuff is out there, but I need to change my philosophy and live more like the ant instead of the grasshopper. And then that is how I totally transform my health. So you want to live your life like an ant because an ant is wise beyond its time. Trust me.
Yeah. And no, and I love this. And I have a book called The Ant and the Grasshopper, which I read to my kids, over and over again. And it's exactly like lots of kids' books written on this. It's like the tortoise and the hare story as well. But I love that you shared this. And in fact, I'm going to make all my clients read this and be like, who are you going to be, the ant or the grasshopper? But also in relationship to the grasshopper, like you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, here's a medication. The grasshopper's like, great, I'll take it, because they're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking about the fact that that drug does not reverse the disease. It does not stop the progression of the disease. It temporarily takes away the symptoms until your body becomes accustomed to the medication, or your body gets worse and then needs more medication and other medications. So you're not
Right.
thinking about the future. It does. And when we take these prescription meds, and on my show, I talk about this all the time. If you don't know another way, then yes, you do need the prescription meds temporarily so that you don't die from a heart attack. So you don't die from, too much insulin in your bloodstream, or too much blood sugars in your bloodstream. So I get that. And I see the importance of it. But at the same time, if you choose to live on those medications for the rest of your life will be shorter. We know that. And it will not be as fulfilling because, like I said, it doesn't take away the disease. You're still going to see those symptoms. You're still going to experience blindness, potentially having an amputation, dying of a heart attack, being in chronic pain, having poor digestion, all of those other things. So your quality of life continues to go down the longer you stay on those medications.
100%.
So it's so important. Yeah. So okay,
100%.
I love this. You are one determined vegan. There is no doubt about that. So did you become vegan right away, or did you just become plant-based and switch to vegan after?
Is that like, the whole, to me, the whole vegan and plant-based thing, it's just like, it's so, politically driven, right?
I
So
hate the word. Yeah, I hate
yeah,
labels and terms because
yeah.
it can mean so many different things. But I'm just so curious though, like about that transition for you. And was it also Whole Foods right away on January 1st, or were you doing
All
like
Whole
the
Foods.
Impossible Burger and things like
No,
that?
no. The more and more research I did, the more and more I kept pointing it back. I call that diesel fuel, right? Diesel fuel in the sense that you can have that stuff, but don't do it a lot, right?
Mhm.
So I tell people I'm a whole foods plant-based vegan. So I live a whole food plant-based vegan lifestyle. So there's no confusion. They're like, hey, are you plant-based or are you vegan or which one? They're like,
Yeah.
nah, like there's no. I'm a whole foods plant-based vegan. So they like whatever you want to say. Like people start getting into the titles and all that stuff, and I just wanted to put vegan on there because people know, like, listen, uh, whether you plant-based, vegan, whatever, right? So I got into the whole foods right away. So like I said
Okay,
before,
good.
the reasons came first, and then the answers came second. So I didn't start getting into the junk food vegan and all that. So I don't do the junk food
Good.
because I call that diesel fuel. Like I said, I went back to school and became certified in holistic nutrition,
Yeah.
and it was on the using plant-based medicine, plant-based lifestyle as the
Yeah.
medicine.
Where did you go to school? Can I ask? Because
Yeah.
different nutrition schools teach different things. Some will teach you like you could do, plant-based keto, or you can, like stop eating nightshades. Like there's so many nutrition schools out there, all teaching different things. Some of them are teaching it's okay, like the 80-20 rule. Some, everyone has a different philosophy. So I'm
Yeah.
super curious where you went to school.
Yeah, I went to school at American Fitness Professionals and Association,
Okay.
American Fitness Professionals and Associates. It's a
Yep.
certification. So in the certification, they teach you the 90-10 rule: 90% fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and then 10% from, if you want, uh, diesel fuel is what I call it.
I
10%.
love that. Yeah.
10% of processed foods and animal products. If you want to do, it's the 90-10 rule. But
Yeah.
me, I'm 100%. I'm 100% plants. But my clients I have clients now and I teach them the 90-10 rule, and they take off like a rocket because you can still have, I don't care what diet you're on, what lifestyle you're on, you want to make plants the main part of your, I don't care if you're Mediterranean, except for keto. Of course, keto doesn't
Yeah.
do plants at all, right?
Yeah.
So 90-10, 90% fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and 10% from the other stuff, the
Okay,
diesel
awesome.
fuel.
Awesome. Awesome. I love this. So then you do this and then the weight starts falling off you, or how did that go?
So within a matter of about 3 or 4 months, I lost about 35, 40 pounds in about three,
Mhm.
4 months.
Yeah.
So I lost in a matter of 10 months, I lost 65 pounds in 10 months. So my height, I'm 5'2", so 65 pounds. I
Mhm.
was considered obese, right? I
Yeah.
was almost 190 pounds. So now at my lowest, I dropped down to 115. So now I'm at 120 pounds now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the weight came off dramatically, quickly, because again, I went to school and I just like whole foods, plants, that's it.
Mm.
Exercise. This is during COVID. So my routine was so solid, right? It's every day, we weren't going anywhere. So I wake up every day, do the same thing every day. My routine was so solid
Yeah.
that the weight just fell off like crazy, right? My cholesterol dropped over 100 points. My cholesterol went from almost 300, so now it's down to like 160, right?
Wow.
159, right?
That's
Last time I
amazing.
checked, back in December is when I checked.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so I do want to stress one thing here. You did this during COVID when we're in lockdown. So that's
Mhm.
incredible. So what do you tell your clients who they're busy, they have 4 kids, they have working 2 jobs, like how are you supporting your clients around finding the time? Because it's the biggest question my clients um come up with for me. And I'm kind of hard ass with it. I'm a little bit militant. I'm just like, your goal is you want to reverse your chronic disease, you make the time. But look, give us some tips and tricks, please.
So the same thing. Reasons come first,
Hmm.
answers come second. So if you
Yeah.
got enough reasons, right, you got to. This is what these are the questions that I had to ask myself. Is it necessary for me to have this condition? Is it necessary? If it's necessary, then okay, yeah, have the condition, great. But if it's not necessary, if, go to the doctor and get all the medication. If that's necessary for you, then be my guest. But if it's not necessary for you, then guess what? It's time to make some changes. So
Hmm.
people, this is what I tell people: people will give you 1,000 excuses, but they'll never give you a good reason, right? Give me 1,000 excuses. But I'm very militant in myself, as you can tell. You can give me 1,000. That's what I did to myself when I was obese and I had all these conditions. I give myself 1,000 excuses as to why I can never lose the weight or why I can never regain my health. But I never gave myself a good reason. So this is what I ask my clients, right? Ask my clients as is a 5-step. Let me pull it up here. Let me pull it up. This is what I ask my clients. I always have a list that I ask my clients. So this is what I tell them to do. I tell them to write down 5 reasons as to why you deserve better health. This is what we do in the beginning. 5 reasons as to why you deserve better health. Then write down why you'll never give up, right? I want you to be like an ant. 5 reasons as to why you deserve better health, and then write down why you'll never give up, right? And what's going to make you unstoppable. Because your mind is going to tell you, like, hey, listen, I can't do this. I got kids. I got this. I got that. I got, life is getting in the way. I got all these different types of stuff,
Yeah.
right? But you got to ask yourself, realistically, is this a reason or is this an excuse,
Yeah.
right? Is this a reason or is this an excuse? And another thing I like to have people tap into is their law of subconscious activity. You ever heard of the law of subconscious activity?
No, I love this. I'm learning so much new things. This is so great. Tell us about it.
Yeah, the law of subconscious activity is if you tell yourself, not even if you tell you, that's why people do it. I am a lot. I am this. I am strong. I am this. I am that. I am life.
Affirmations. Yeah.
Affirmations, right? But you go even deeper than that in the sense that the reason that they do that is because they're reprogramming their subconscious when it comes to certain things.
Mhm.
So what I like to do to my clients is I like to give them this. I have them write down on a piece of paper or on a flip sheet, right? On a, what do you call it? Like a cue card. On a cue card, I'll write down what is it that you want? What is it that you literally want? Right? This is what you want, right? You write that out on the front, and on the back, you write ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open to you, right? And you
Mhm.
put that in your pocket and you watch and you put it in your pocket and you go about your life, your daily life, and you use these affirmations in the sense that what is it that I want? And then you flip it over in the back and you read those 3 lines,
Mhm.
and then that will go into your subconscious. Literally go into like say like, oh, okay, I am. You say I am 115 pounds, or I am 100% healthy. I am no longer a diabetic. I no longer have heart disease. That's what you put on there. And then every time you go to the bathroom throughout the day, you look at that, right? You look at that card and then you flip it over and you read those 3 things on there. And the more you do that, the more
Mhm.
and more your subconscious will say, your actions will start to align with what your subconscious is saying. So you have to literally rewire your subconscious. If not, you don't really have a chance. You're gonna give in to the excuses. The
Exactly.
excuses are, I got kids, I got this, I got that, I got blah blah blah. I got a billion excuses, but I don't have a good reason, right? So
Hmm.
this is what I teach my clients, to reprogram your subconscious, and it works. I'm telling you, it works for me, it works for my client, and it works for, yeah, they love it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's critical that we do that because our brains are we are animals. So our body's looking for efficiency, it's looking for novelty, but it also wants security and it wants comfort, but it also wants excitement. So it wants all these things at once, but mostly efficiency because we're still hunter gatherers. So it's like, okay, let's use the least amount of energy to get the most amount of calories because we don't know when our next meal is going to be coming our way. Meanwhile, we can just go to the fast food joint or the grocery store around the corner.
yeah,
For hopefully, most people who have a grocery store in their community, a lot of communities don't. But so we have to do that. I mean, I do a process called Psych kinesthetics, and it's exactly that, where we create a whole brain environment that allows you to hardwire these affirmations into your body as though you've already experienced it. And it's incredible because it doesn't have to take a long time, right? You
yeah,
carry that piece of paper around, you do an exercise like this, it takes an hour. And before you know it, you start taking action in favor of that goal and that dream. Like you become the ant. Nothing can
yeah,
get away in the way of you achieving that. So I love this.
precisely.
Yeah, I love this. This is brilliant. And it's so important because a lot of coaches, it's not just a matter of having the information. Like so many people have enough information, but without having the why, like you talked about, and then having this hardwired into your body and your brain, like it's going to be a lot harder for you to achieve those goals. So this is amazing. These are all signs that you're an incredible coach. So if anybody out there is listening, I'm just giving you a 10 out of 10 right now as far as
Thank you very
coaches
much.
go. Um, and especially because I really appreciate what you said about, putting aside those labels and that you are plant-based, whole food, vegan, like, the person who believes in the whole foods, like, which is so important as well. Because we have too many individuals out there that are, that people say this all the time. I cook from scratch, with all refined processed flours, and they cook from scratch, but they're still, just because you bake and you use flour, sugar, salt, and that doesn't make you a plant-based eater,
Right.
like that's refined food at the very core of it. Um, okay, so I want to know more about your journey. So the weight starts melting off,
Mhm.
and how much are you working out at the gym at this point? Or are you really
Yeah.
focused more on the food?
It was both, right? So it was during COVID, so we didn't have anything to do. We were waking up and staying at home every day, right?
Yeah.
So instead of waking, so instead of waking up and staying at home, I did it for a little while. I mean, I sat around for like, when it first happened, everybody kind of still in shock.
Oh, yeah.
I sat around for maybe a month and a half before I started. I was just like, wow, this is nice. I can just hang out and just chill, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, that was nice. But after a while, I started to get really old, and I started to, what can I do? Again, and I started having all the family members passing away, and once that happened, and the light bulb went off. I just developed a routine. Wake up every morning, do my routine, do my workout. I work out in the morning time. Sometimes I work out twice, but most of the time I work out in the morning time for about 45 minutes. But I didn't. Here's the thing, though. I didn't change my workouts. I didn't change my workouts in a sense. The only thing I changed about my workouts is my intensity.
Hmm.
I changed my intensity in my workout simply because I had all these images of, my mother passing away. I'm looking in a coffin and my mother's gone from, eating double cheeseburgers and pork chops and all these different things, right? So the reason that she's gone is because a poor diet, right? Which is marketing on television. So my routine didn't really change. I was still working out the same amount, literally, but it was just my intensity changed. Like I hit the bag harder. I hit the bag like so hard you wouldn't, like I'm knocking all the water out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
running an extra mile. I'm running an extra mile. Like this mile is, nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then I started learning about how can you amplify your performance. So then I started getting into, keep in mind, I went back to school for nutrition. Then I started learning about beets. Like, okay, if you take beets an hour and a half to 2 hours of beet juice, literally an hour and a half to 2 hours before your workout, it oxygenates your body. It takes your blood cells and it makes the oxygen where you can come in. You can just take in so much oxygen from simply because from the beet juice. And then I would even work out even harder because I wasn't getting tired. So I was working out, and
Exactly.
then my meals, of course, my meals were, I started off with recipes, right? I just started off eating uh, nutrition through recipes. I just started making all whole food, plant-based recipes, recipes, recipes. Eat the leftovers, more recipes, workout recipes, workout recipes, workout. It was literally, that was my routine.
Yeah.
6 days a week.
I love it. So I want to talk about this a little bit more because obviously it's my area of interest. Given that I'm running and biking across Canada next year, I ran and biked across the state back and forth. 2 years ago, we had to postpone it because of COVID for the last, but anyway, it's happening. We made a documentary on it. I'll share it with you as well, and would love to also work with you to share it with your audiences as well. The documentary, it's called Grounded in My Roots. And
I've heard it.
yeah, it's beautiful. And, just about getting back to our roots, and obviously it's a metaphor for many things, the root vegetables, it's getting back to our roots, the soil, that our microbiome, but it's really about getting back to our ancestral roots because, we do have quite a significant settler population, white population that thinks that veganism is a brand new thing. Whereas I was born in Africa and my grandmother was the ultimate vegan, until she passed away in her 90s, disease free. But every villager as well in our village, every relative there also was the original vegan dating back for centuries and centuries because you don't have a lot of meat. You can't access meat, you can't access dairy. But the thing that you can access are whole foods everywhere. So they were eating whatever was in season, whatever they were growing, but it was all plants, right?
Right.
And they are the original vegan. So Grounded in My Roots is going back to what your ancestors ate. And whether you're Irish, Scottish, British, I mean, if you go back far enough, like a few hundred years prior to colonization, most of us ate plants, people. We didn't eat pork chops and fried chicken and, we didn't eat all of this stuff. And we didn't. And if we did, it definitely was not in these crazy quantities that we're seeing. Like it wasn't meat 3 times a day or not even 3 times a month. Like you might eat meat 3 times a year at a funeral or at a wedding. Right. And anything more than that, people knew it would kill you, right? You ate the plants were the medicine. So anyway, for running and biking across Canada, this requires an intense amount of nutrition, but it's not complicated. It's just that I eat more calories. That's all that it is. And when I say more calories, my portions are a little bit bigger. I eat a few more times in the day, and that's mostly it. So for a lot of people, when they think about my nutrition, they're like, "Oh my God, you need to be eating so much protein." And I'm like, "No, it's like a handful of nuts just before I go to bed, or like you said, a beet juice thrown in, or it gives you more glucose, it gives you more fuel." And so it's not that complicated, right? Being an athlete and being plant-based. So what do you want to share with the audience about that? What are the things that they need to know if they are a plant-based athlete? And
So
that
the
just means
athlete,
working out, running. Like it doesn't have to be a complicated, high endurance athlete.
yeah. So I just keep it simple, right? I keep it simple in the sense that as long as you're getting enough variety, and it's like you said, as long as you're getting enough calories, you don't have to worry about that. I just keep it in my program. It's so simple, right? It's keep it so simple in the sense that now, if you come to me and say like, "Hey, listen, I want to be a big buff guy, and I want to be a big bodybuilder and things like that," then I'm not going to be the right coach for you. But if
Mm-hmm.
you come to me and you say, "Hey, listen, I'm just a normal guy who wants to be able to tie his shoes. I'm a normal guy who wants to be able to walk up the stairs without getting crazy winded. I'm a normal guy who wants to be able to just do normal everyday stuff that I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do before when I was obese." Right. So I tell people, hey, listen, as long as you're getting enough calories and as long as you're getting enough variety, then guess what? Your body, you can work out like you still work out like a madman. I worked out like a madman many days a week, and my health didn't waver. My energy levels were still, up to par. Right. It's
Yeah.
just long as you know how to do your pre-workout stuff. My pre-workout stuff, again, beat your nitric oxide from the beets, right? Your green leafy vegetables, right? You want to make sure you're getting those, but make sure you also bring it into your. Now you're talking about your whole grains and your beans, things of higher calories,
Mm-hmm.
calorie contents. So you got your I tell people, hey, listen, fruits and vegetables, 100 calories. So there are 100 calories in a pound of non-starchy vegetables. There's only 100 in 1 pound of non-starchy vegetables. We're talking, bell peppers and onions and, carrots and things of that nature. They are, well, carrots are, sometimes people say they are starchy, they're not starchy. It's kind of a debate, right? But those are 100 calories. And then fruits and vegetables are about 300 calories for a pound of fruits. And then then you start getting into the higher things, and then you start getting into your grains, you start getting into your quinoas and your beans and your potatoes and things of that nature. Now, 400 to 600 calories, right, for a pound, right? So you want to eat more of that whenever you're being more athletic. But normal everyday people, I tell them, hey, listen, I want your greens and your non-starches to be a big part of your lifestyle, right? 50% of non-starchy vegetables, leafy greens. But again, if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be working out a little bit more, then you're going to have to start getting into the higher calorie foods, like I talked about, the beans, the potatoes, the quinoas, the brown rices, the millets, the bulgur wheat, things of that nature.
Yeah. No,
Farro.
that's
I love farro.
well, that's a great way of putting it for people too, because it's often when I see people, they come to me after they've gone plant-based and, they found stuff online, or maybe they had a nutritionist. And unfortunately, though, they start off consuming high amounts of rice and beans and lots of nuts and seeds, lots of avocados. And I'm like, that's great. Like, those are plant-based whole foods. But what about the collard greens, the Brussels sprouts, like all the leafy greens that you just mentioned? And often too, they just like completely staying away from sugar because they're afraid that, if they eat fruits, that's high in the glycemic index. Whereas it's important for people to understand that all those starchy foods are really important for all their fibers, for their glucose, for everything. And when you're eating it in the context of no animal fat, no dairy, your body's blood sugar levels will not go up and spike the way they did while you were eating a meat-based diet. So there's so much confusion in the world of nutrition. So I want to know from you, when your clients come to you, I love that you keep it simple, but how do you go about working with your clients when they ask you the questions like, can I eat this? Can I eat that? How much of this should I eat? Like, you've given a really great formula, but do they have to follow your eating plan forever, or does it become intuitive to them? Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I also teach them intuitive eating as well. So I teach them intuitive eating in the sense that, hey, you're listening to your body. Just because it's dinner time, just because the clock says it's lunchtime, or just because the clock says it's dinner time, you're not necessarily have to eat if your body is not asking you for that nutrition. Now, again, if you're trying to be an athlete, yes, but if you're living a normal everyday life, there could be time where some days when your body needs more and more calories, just depending on what you're doing, and there's some days when your body needs less calories, right? So you have to literally mindful, and then you have to be literally intuitive in the sense that I teach people to eat until they're about 80% full, right? 80% full, and then also listen to their body. So there's days that go by where I'll eat at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I eat with the sun and the moon, by the way, with my circadian rhythm. So sometimes I'll eat, a light breakfast, very, very light, and fruits, mainly fruits in the morning time, and then juices. And then in the afternoon, that's when I start bringing in my heavy stuff, right? I start bringing in, like you were saying, like the avocados and the nuts, the seeds, the whole grains, and all of the heavy stuff, the beans, right? I start bringing out all in the afternoon because that is the time of the day when the sun is at its peak, right? Mm-hmm. And then your body is in perfectly aligned with the sun and the moon. And as the sun goes down, so sometimes I'll eat a big meal at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And by the time dinner time comes, 6, 7 o'clock, I'm not even hungry, right? I may grab like a little snack or something, grab me a couple of dates and some grapes or something like that, and I keep it moving. I have a nice night. But there's also nights where I'm like, man, I need to eat something, right? Or, and I'll grab something at nighttime. But I try not to eat too late because of, just like you're saying, where the reason that people gain weight and the reason that people have struggle time sleeping well and things of that nature is because they're eating the wrong food, wrong fuel source at the wrong time. right?
Yeah.
And even it can be good food. It can be, you know, avocados, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and all that different stuff. But if you eat that stuff too close to bedtime, then guess what? Their body's not gonna like that, right? In the sense that that's not conducive for losing weight. That's not conducive for regaining your health. So I teach people the rhythm, to eat with the rhythm of the sun and the moon. As the sun comes up, you eat light, right? The breakfast time, the sun is not all the way up yet. But when the sun gets up, and it's the middle of the day, that's when you should eat because that's when the sun is shining the brightest. And then that's also when your body can handle the most amount of calories,
Yeah.
right? In the middle of the day. And as nighttime goes down, the sun's going down and your body is shutting down. And then the cells automatically inside of your body, but for your circadian rhythm, they all automatically start to slow down. They slow down so much to the point where you're asleep, right? That's how much they slow down,
Yeah.
right? So I teach people that you don't stuff yourself when it comes to eating late like that. You want to listen to your body, and then if your body says it's nutrient time, then that's when it's time to eat. But just don't go crazy eating because it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's marketing. Marketing, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is a marketing thing. It's not breakfast, lunch, and dinner is not a real thing. It's not.
No.
Right.
No, and that's what I just finished my PhD, and one of the guests, I did 9 podcasts. I got to submit a podcast series, a TED Talk, a whole bunch of different things for portfolio, but I loved it because one of the guests, that's exactly, she said, we have to decolonize our plate, right? We have a course called Decolonizing Your Plate, which is not just about getting rid of all the processed refined food off your plate, but it's also decolonizing your mindset around thinking. Right. So one of the things is, where did 3 meals a day come from? Or 4 meals or 6 meals, or, you know, where did that come from? And it's important we start thinking about these things. Otherwise, you just buy into whatever anybody is saying is correct. And yeah, it was really convenient when we had kids in school and workers in the factory saying, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, we ring the bell, we tell you you're hungry, you're going to eat now because you can't eat outside of those times. And, you know, but if you don't challenge these concepts that we have in our society, then you're never going to break free of them. And then you're never going to trust your intuition. And I love that you're teaching intuitive eating, because we need that more than ever versus the nutritionists that are like, you have to eat this way and there's only one way. No, like, you know, and there's another piece that you brought up that I think is really crucial, especially for women, because we also have the rhythm of the sun and the moon. But we have our moon cycle. And, you know, a few days before we get our period, women become obsessed about sugar, and it is a real thing, but it's real because your estrogen levels are going like this. And so we have this demand for glucose in our body to be able to have a cycle. But so many women are like, oh, I don't eat sugar and I don't eat that. But you know, your body does have a need for it at certain times of the month. And so this intuitive eating it's like critical for our society that we get in touch with that. Otherwise, we're just going to be victim of a food system and a very complicated nutrition coaching system as well that is out there, where it doesn't have to be complicated. So it's one thing I really appreciate about you is the fact that you do simplify it for people and get people back in touch with themselves.
Absolutely.
That's critical. Another 2 points for you as a coach.
Thank you very much. You got to keep it simple. The reason that you want to keep it simple is so people will do it.
Yes.
Right. If you take it overcomplicated, like I talked to I'm on some other, you know, some of my groups that I'm on, and some of the nutritionists, they get on there and they just start like talking like crazy, like, I understand what they're saying, but for the normal person, they're just like, dude, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Right?
And a
keep
lot of the programs are so complicated. It's like 9 o'clock, you got to go, you know, make this and then drink this and then do this, but then don't eat this for 2 days and then bring this in for 3 days. And I'm like, this is not the reality of our human body and also of our time schedule, right? Like to have something that's so complicated like that. But I also get to, at the beginning, a lot of people think it's complicated because they are moving from, you know, opening up a TV dinner or stopping by the drive-through, and they have to learn how to chop vegetables. A lot of our clients have never seen a potato. They've only seen a McCain's fry in a frozen section at the grocery store. You know, so a lot of people don't know what a leek is, or fennel, or a turnip, or a Brussels sprout. They've never seen it. They've never touched it. They've never chopped it. So I do appreciate that when you're learning these things at the beginning, it is tricky, but for the most part, it can be quite simple. So,
Absolutely.
so let's talk about your book that's coming out, because it's coming out in like a couple weeks, right?
Around on May 9th, yes, 2 weeks from today.
Awesome. That'll be a birthday present to myself, May 10th. So that's perfect timing. So tell us about the book. What's your book about? Where can people get it?
The book is about that whole journey that I just told you. The book is going to be out on May 9th, and the book is called Plants Saved My Life because plants literally saved my life. The book is about how I went from the worst shape of my life to the best shape of my life by using the power of plant-based nutrition. And I just tell the story about all the stories that I told you there. I didn't talk about the ant and the grasshopper in the book, but I tell the stories about how can you learn how to lose the weight, like we talked about intuitive eating. I talk about intuitive eating. Where's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? How can you lose the weight naturally without having to count a single calorie? And then also there is a topic about medicine as well. Medicine, it's called medicine isn't healthcare, food is healthcare, right? So food is healthcare in the sense that how can you use food to use it as a weapon to be able to defeat disease, right? How can you learn how to sleep better? I talk about the circadian rhythm in the book, right? I talk about protein. We talk about protein.
Yeah. I was like, please don't ask me the question. I don't want to ask you about protein, but everybody wants to know where they get their protein from. So we're not going to talk about it here. Read the book.
Yeah.
Read Kelly's book.
I put the topic of protein to bed when it comes. I talk about what protein is. Well, I talk about milk in the sense that what is milk used for, right? Why do we have milk on this earth, right? And the protein in milk. So I talk about all the different things of proteins inside of milk, and then also how do you heal your body naturally through the power of plant-based nutrition, and also marketing. I talk about marketing, like we talked about. Marketing says this, marketing says that, right? People get so confused about. I have no idea what I'm supposed to eat. I have no idea. The doctor told me this, or this person told me that. What do I do? I'm so confused.
This is such an important piece here that you just hit on, because in my research as well, that's what came out of the studies, was that marketing is one of the biggest barriers to people being free of chronic disease. It's literally one of the biggest contributors to people having chronic disease is marketing. And we don't talk about that because the risk factors, according to the CDC for diabetes and heart disease, is ethnicity, age. They don't talk about diet, by the way. So they blame the victim. They say, well, it's because you're Black. That's the reason why you will have higher risk of diabetes. They say it's genetics, which is, again, not true, right? Your mother had it, your grandmother had diabetes, so therefore you have diabetes. They say it's age. Oh, it's because you're above 40. That's why you're at risk of diabetes. Again, this is all bullshit. And I'm allowed to swear because this is my podcast, but literally this is BS, because the real risk factors identified in my research was one of them was marketing, as well as lack of access to foods in our communities. So I just love that you brought that up in your book. That's amazing. So again, everybody read this book.
And yeah, absolutely. And I talk about the disease. I talk about where diseases come from, and it runs in the family, right? Oh yeah, it runs in my family, runs in this family. Sure, it runs in your family. But guess what? If you eat the same diet that your parents ate, then yeah, you're gonna trigger the same disease that they did. But if you do something totally different, if you change your gene expression, guess what? You don't have to worry about that. You may have to worry about it a little bit, but you don't have to worry about it a lot, right? You don't have to, go crazy about it because you did something completely different than what they did.
Yeah.
Again, if you do the same stuff that they did, then yeah, you got to worry about it. Yes. But if you don't,
even if it's genetic, though, that's the thing, is that we know now, the research shows, even if you have a genetic predisposition to any kind of disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, if you eat a nutrient dense diet, so which means plant-based whole food diet, and the research shows this, you will die of natural causes before you will ever express those genes and die, or even like get the symptoms of that disease. So even if you have the genetic predisposition, so it's so important for people to know this. And I'm glad you've included that in your book too. Awesome. Keep going. I keep interrupting you, but it's only because you have such great stuff in your book. Which is awesome.
And I tell people outlive their doctor. I want you to make a goal. This is I tell my clients, I want you to make a goal to outlive your doctor.
Ooh, that's a good goal.
Right? I've been on some podcasts, and doctors, they don't like that one too much, but it's the truth, right?
But honestly, I coach physicians all around the world, and I cannot tell you how unhealthy these physicians are. They suffer from so much anxiety and stress as a result of poor gut health. They suffer from skin conditions, psoriasis, eczema, like head to toe, that none of the medications can treat, asthma, suicidal tendencies. A lot of these physicians that I've taught, heart disease, diabetes, like the list of infertility, autoimmune disorders. So the physicians are not exempt from these conditions just because they're physicians. Like, that is a myth. So we have
Yeah.
all these unhealthy doctors prescribing all these drugs, and they don't know the first thing about reversing chronic disease. So this part is, I think, if everybody's goal was just to outlive their doctor, we would eradicate chronic disease right now.
The number one contributor, the number one cause of death for a cardiologist is heart disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
In all doctors, actually, and the number one cause of death for all doctors is heart disease. Right?
And
But
it's one of
specifically,
the easiest to reverse with a plant-based diet. You just switch to a plant-based diet, your arteries unclog, your heart becomes strong, your arterial walls thicken and become nice and supple and soft, but good and like thick enough. They're not thin and frayed. Come
right?
on, like, come on, people. So yeah, this is, and if somebody's taking advice from their medical doctor that has heart disease, you might want to get rid of that doctor or educate that doctor. Go get them Kelly's book and just put it on their desk just before you leave your appointment. Help a doctor out.
Yeah, absolutely. Help a doctor out for real, for real, for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the number one, it's the leading cause of death for cardiologists is heart disease. Like
Yeah.
that's hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Right? So make a plan to outlive your doctor. Just because they're a doctor, my doctor told me, hey, listen, my doctor was overweight and had a big pot belly, and he tells me, hey, here's some statins, right? Here's a statin, have a good life. So my mother passed away from they were going in for a procedure to put stents into her heart, right? Going in and put stents into her heart, and she passed away on the table, right?
Mhm.
She was taking all types of medication over the years before her heart disease. She had heart disease, leaky valves and all types of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
literally, because we eat the wrong fuel source. So that is what I want to tell people. Like, listen, your loved one, you don't have to, just like you said, heart disease is the easiest thing. Heart disease and diabetes is like
So
two of
easy.
the easiest things to get rid of. They're the easiest things to get, and they're the easiest things to get rid of,
Yeah.
right? What I say by easy, what I mean by easy, I don't mean easy in the sense that like, hey, everyone can do it. It's easy in the sense that, yeah, you can do that. Easy for me means something I can do. If it's
Yeah.
something I can do, I think that that's easy, right? Other people may look at it different, but if it's something I know that I can do, then it's easy for me.
We're all capable of it, though. That's the thing. If you are willing to chop a few vegetables, wash a few vegetables, chew a few vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, then you can reverse heart disease. Like, it is easy. Like, it'll be hard at the beginning for sure. I do not want to take that away from anybody. It'll be hard in the beginning as you learn how to cook this way, as you learn how to eat this way. But once you do it, it is easy to reverse that chronic disease.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And the food is the medicine, and the medicine is the food. That's what I tell people that. I talk about that in my book. I tell the whole story about food is the medicine. Food is medicine, and the medicine is the food.
Yeah.
Right? When
And
you
this
grasp
is
that
nothing.
concept, it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is nothing new. Like, this is the part that breaks my heart because, you're 40 right now. Is that right, Kelly?
44,
You're 44. So your mom was really young when she died.
67.
Yeah, that's young. She had a whole nother life, like a third of her life to live. And so that is so young for anybody who's listening to this. Like, if you have another 25 good years in you, like, imagine what you can do in 25 years. Like, when Bill reversed his stage 4 cancer, and my friend's dad I was telling you about, he became a pilot after reversing his cancer. He helped start one of the fastest growing real estate companies. He became a skydiver and developed this old timer skydiving group that all these 70-plus-year-olds go like, and he got to see his grandchildren and great grandchildren be born and spend time with them. Like, there is a whole world available to you when you put into action all the things that are listed in your book. Like, there's a whole world waiting for you.
That's what it's all about. It's just putting it into action, right? We can talk until we're blue in the face, but until people put into the action, is the book is about everything that I've learned and I applied. So just because you learn it Just
Yeah.
because you learn some stuff, you can read my book and learn some stuff, but then you become a fool, right? You don't apply it. So don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Here's the saying: don't let your learning lead to knowledge. If you let your learning lead to knowledge, you become a fool.
Yeah.
Let your learning lead to action. If you let your learning lead to action, you can be unstoppable, right? You can transform your health. You can become a millionaire. You can do whatever you want. If you take all that learning you learn from those books, that knowledge, and you apply it, you can be a force, right?
Yeah.
But if you just let it lead to knowledge, then you become a fool. So don't
Yeah.
become a fool.
Oh, yeah. And I'm the first to say that I have done that many times over. Like I've read the financial investment books, but did I ever go and like open up a TSA account or whatever it's called and invest? No, I'm a fool in the financial sector. It's not
Yeah,
even funny, but in the health sector, yeah. And that's okay to be a fool in the financial sector because you know what? It's like money will not give you health if you do not apply that knowledge that you share.
right.
And so, yeah, so it is critical to do that. So where can people find your book, Kelley?
They can find the books will be out on May 9th, but they can find, of course, you can find it on Amazon. It'll be on Amazon. You just go Plant Save My Life in
Mhm.
Amazon. Or now you can go, in the meantime, you can be on my newsletter, my email newsletter, which is go.onedeterminedvegan.com/book. All right, so it's
Awesome.
go.onedeterminedvegan.com/book. And then there you can sign up for my email newsletter. And also you can get a free chapter there as well. You can get the introductory chapter to find out kind of how my writing style is. People like my writing style is very conversational. This is like
Awesome.
I'm having a conversation with you. So that's my writing style. So you can get the free chapter there. But the book is going to be out on May 9th.
Okay, I love it. That's amazing. And we're going to have the link in the show notes as well. What if somebody wants to work with you? How do they get in touch with you?
So it's the same thing. You go to onedeterminedvegan.com. But the main thing is I'm redesigning my website because I'm getting rid of my one-on-one coaching program. After the book comes out, I'm not going to be doing one-on-one coaching anymore. I'm going to be doing group coaching. I'm going to be doing a
Okay.
group coaching program, and the group coaching program is called Plant Fit, right? So you can
Awesome.
go there at onedeterminedvegan.com. I'll have everything there. And also you can, if you want to get directly in contact me with, probably best to find me on LinkedIn. And also you can find me on at Kelley Gilberry, Kelley Gilberry, CHN for certified holistic nutritionist, or Instagram at one_determined_vegan. One determined
Awesome.
vegan, but underscores.
Perfect. We're going to put all of those links in the show notes. So there'll be no problems with people being able to find you. I also like that you're not doing one-on-one anymore as well. And here is why. I know there's a lot of people are like, no, we want the one-on-one, but and let me guess why you're not doing this. So can I take a
Sure.
stab at this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Only because I used to do one-on-ones like 16 years ago. And then I was like, wait a minute, I want to help the world heal. And I can't do it through doing one-on-one.
Right.
The second reason is because it doesn't matter what your disease is. You can have diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, infertility. You can have it, mental health conditions. At the end of the day, it comes back to the same information. Eat real food, eat
That's it.
whole foods, eat plant. So at the end, you coach these individuals, but you could have been coaching 1,000 individuals with the same information and they're all going to heal.
Precisely. You're
Those two are the
exactly right.
reasons. Is there
No,
another
you're
reason
exactly
why you're
right.
not doing one-on-one coaching?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, right? In the sense that, yeah, it's all going to be the same thing. So my philosophy is whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to, regain your health from a chronic condition like those conditions that you just named, guess what? It all comes down to the root cause. The root cause is your gut microbiome is jacked up, right?
Yeah, exactly. On the wrong things, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, you can have irritable bowel disease, irritable bowel, Crohn's, whatever. It's all comes from you're feeding the wrong gut bugs. You're feeding the wrong bugs, and they're having a field day with you. 'Cause I tell people like, what are gut bugs? What are gut microbiome? Gut microbiome is everything. It makes you who you are, right? It
Mhm.
determines, a lot of stuff about you. It determines your personality, determines your mental health. It determines how your energy is produced through your body. I mean, it is in charge of a lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
in these gut bugs, there's trillions of them inside of your gut. And if you feed the wrong ones, there are whole colonies of these things. If you
Mhm.
feed the wrong ones, then guess what? They will start to eat you after a while. They want to survive. So even if you pass away, your gut bugs are still going to be alive. They're still going to be like, I'm trying to survive, right? They're relentless and they're like ants. They're not going to stop, right? So you have to be able to. That's why people are always preaching good gut health. You got to have good gut health. The reason you want to have good gut health is because that is where everything stems from. All sickness and disease, it all starts in the gut. Pretty much every last one of them starts in the gut.
No, and I hear you. And people who are hearing this, I know you've heard this on every podcast, every book that's come out for the last 5 years is talking about the microbiome, and it's important for people to really start to understand what the microbiome is. And the one piece I want to touch on, because you said it's a predictor of your personality. And you just reminded me when 16 years ago, when I first started learning all of this, and then I got certified, and one of the individuals, this man, walked up to me. He was probably in his 30s, and he came up to me and he's like, I just have to tell you something. He goes, I applied everything that we learned, and he was there just to learn it again, even though he had already been living the lifestyle for quite a few years, but he was in the US Navy as well. And he said, the minute he switched to a plant-based diet, the minute he switched to vegan diet that was whole foods, real, it was clean, it was organic, the minute he did that, he said his whole personality changed. So he had used to be this super angry man. He was in the Navy. He could like punch somebody in the face in like 2 seconds of them like looking at his girlfriend sideways or whatever, and he was so angry. He didn't care about the environment. He was like, whatever, I can pollute and whatever. He was like this bro of a dude from the Navy, cared about nothing.
Right.
And then he changed his diet, and he had to because he got sick. So then he changed to a plant-based whole food diet, and he's like, all of a sudden he became this kind, compassionate man. Nothing would trigger him. Like he wasn't snappy and irritated anymore. And also, we also had another guy from the British Air Forces who did our program. He also said the same thing. When he switched to a plant-based whole food diet that was clean, he said if he had done that before joining the British Air Forces, he could never have shot the enemy, ever. Because he recognized that they were brothers, like literally from the same earth. Like, why would I want to harm somebody? I couldn't do that. So when we talk about changing, like when you've mentioned that change, like your gut microbiome, it predicts your personality. It does. And I've seen it over and over and over again.
100%. It is a powerful thing, right? I tell people to simplify, it makes you, right? That's what your gut microbiome does. It makes you the person that you are. How you express yourself, everything about you. If it's damaged, then you're going to be not in good shape. You're going to be miserable if it's damaged, right? You want to repair it slowly. And then when people have like irritable bowel syndrome, they tell me, oh yeah, I can't eat beans. I can't eat this. I can't eat. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Your gut is so destroyed that you start getting to putting all this fiber and all these different phytonutrients in your body that your body has not used to, and you've fed too many of the bad gut bacteria over a while. When you start putting good stuff in there, your body's going to be like, what's this? And then, right? But you have to go through the fire, right? It's just like a sword. And when you forge a sword, guess what? It has to go through the fire. And then when it comes out of the fire, it's all mangled and all that stuff when you get it. But when you put it into the fire and you beat it to death, like you're going to get beat up when you're trying to heal yourself from irritable bowels, IBS, things of that nature. But when you come out the other side, it's going to be just like that sword. That sword is going to be able to cut through anything. It's going to be the sharpest thing in this world. And then that is what's going to happen to your gut. But it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It comes to things like irritable bowel syndrome and, things like that.
No. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up. For certain conditions like diabetes, and I know you found this to be true, is that you can reverse diabetes in like less than a month. Like it's literally less than a month. Your A1C levels are normal. Your blood sugar isn't spiking. Heart disease can take a little bit longer, but to bring down cholesterol and to bring down your blood pressure, it doesn't take that long. And that's good because that's good for your health to do that. And then, irritable bowel and Crohn's and everything like that, because it takes about 3 to 4 months for your villi to grow back and your intestinal lining to like turn over enough times that it's healthy. So if people are thinking that, this is not a one pill wonder, my friends, you're going to have to work at this, and it's going to take some time because your body's cyclical as well. Like you have red blood cells that take 120 days to be recreated. So, if you have unhealthy red blood cells right now, before you get your new ones, you have to wait 3 months, 3, 4 months. So it's important for people to understand. I love that analogy of the sword. And what I saw as well is the minute you go through that, right, it take you a few months, but you pull out that sword. And with that sword, you literally are, and I know this is going to sound so corny, but you're going to be a wellness warrior, a wellness
Oh, yeah.
renegade. You'll be able to fight off and keep every disease at bay, which is awesome. And even illnesses like COVID, viruses that come, like they will not affect you the way they did affect all of those individuals with comorbidity factors.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Your gut
That's a
health
great
is-
analogy.
Thank you. I'm the master of analogies. If you didn't know by now, in the Navy we learn how to tell these things called sea stories. So
Mhm.
if you get on me in stories, I can go in stories until you don't want to compete with me when it comes to stories. Like I'm a story.
I won't. I will not compete with you in the
So
storytelling
I
department. You and
promise
I
you,
can probably go head to head, but I know for sure you're going to win, for
I
sure.
promise you, you're not gonna win.
No. Well, and it just makes me
Yeah.
think when you write, if I could just make a request, because I have no desire to do it, it's not in me, but if you could write kids' books with those sea story, muscles of yours, that would be awesome because unfortunately, not all parents know this information. So their kids are growing up being diagnosed with, diabetes at a super young age, as MS as young as 3 years old. So we need this information that you shared with kids and, with the storytelling genius that you have. So just putting that out there to you if you want another job, but
I never thought about writing a kid's book. Maybe it's in the future. I'm not saying that's my next book, but it's definitely could be in the future.
well, and I can see you as being the main character, right? You're like this guy, and then you pull out your sword and you're a superhero. It's like, I'm seeing it all happen for you. So
That is beautiful. That's a beautiful. I like that, Nicolette.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna use that.
Yeah, I love it. If you could do that and send me some books, because my kids now are all teenagers, but my grandkids will be like needing to read those books. So I could just read it to them. I would love if that could happen. So that's a dream that I'm putting out there to you.
We'll definitely
So
make it happen.
we need to wrap up here for sure,
Okay.
but I could talk to you forever. There's no doubt about that. There's so many topics. So we're going to have you back on the show to share your stories and your amazing sea story way that you do it. Any one last tip that you want to leave with our listeners?
Yes, thank you very much. And I definitely love to be back. The tip I always like to leave is when we talked about marketing earlier, when marketing starts getting confusing, when people start confusing you about this, confusing about that, don't worry about any of that noise. Don't worry about any of that nonsense. All you need to worry about is what nature is telling you to do. What is nature telling me to do when it comes to should I listen to this doctor and I go to the doctor and he gives me conflicting advice and I go to that doctor and they give me conflicting advice and listen to friends, family, marketing, all this different stuff. And there's so much conflicting advice. As long as you can listen to Mother Nature will never steer you wrong, right? So that is my advice I give to people in the sense that always listen to what Mother Nature says because she is perfect in her design.
She is perfect in her design. That is beautiful. That is a magic way to end this interview. So thank you so much for being on the show. We're definitely going to have you back, Kelley, because I know our audience is going to love everything you said. It resonated so deeply with me. There's so much truth in everything you're saying. And so people out there, just do what Kelley says and your health will be back on track before you know it.
Absolutely. And if you want more stories, the book's coming out May 9th. Go get it.
Yeah, we're going to put the link to that book for sure. Definitely. And we'll try and carry it in our restaurants as well, as we have plant-based whole food restaurants and we sell lots of books like yours. But there's not a whole lot we can carry because so many people still use refined process ingredients. So for us, we don't carry those books, but I'd be happy to carry yours for sure. Get it
Yeah,
out
there's
there to
nothing
lots of people.
refined or processed. There's nothing refined or processed in my book.
Love it. Love it. See,
Yeah.
you're like 10 out of 10, 15 out of 10 here.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is so perfect. Okay. Awesome, Kelley. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, and thanks for listening to this episode on the Eat Real to Heal podcast. I hope you enjoyed this riveting conversation where we dove into the nuances of nutrition, including, really understanding that distinction between whole foods and those less nourishing and often very harmful alternatives. Kelly's passion and advocacy for plant-based living really, really taps into the ancestral roots, your ancestral roots. And I hope you got that from this podcast. And so, once again, if you loved anything at all from this podcast, please share this episode with your loved ones, with your colleagues, friends, relatives, anyone in your life who could benefit from hearing this. And as well, if you didn't like something about the podcast, if you want to give us feedback, we love it. As well as if there's someone that you know in your life that has used food as medicine to reverse their chronic disease, please let us know. We would love to invite them onto our show. So definitely connect us to them to us, and we will make that happen. Thanks everyone for being here. Don't forget to share that we have our exclusive new training program, our metabolic nutrition and detox program, which is a 6-month training program available to yoga instructors across the globe. Please let them know about this so that they can start revamping their business. We need to develop an army of health coaches that know about chronic disease reversal. And so you can be part of making that happen as well, simply by sharing our nutrition and detox coaching program with them. Thanks everyone, and have a great day, and see you on next week's episode.